I can only become very quote unquote creative, or when I feel my most creative, is as a last minute production. And we joke about that. That's kind of my branding of last minute production. But that is kind of the way that I operate. I will have a general overview. I can rough cut. I can do some of those pieces, but I'm more of a pantser, not a plotter. I am a last minute creator. And every time I'm like, oh, this might be the day. It's not gonna come off. And then it's fine, which then reinforces that.
Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello, Reflectives, and welcome to episode 487 of the Stark Reflections podcast. This is your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. And today's episode is a post-mortem reflection for the 2026 Aurora Awards. And I do that with my partner, the awesome, the amazing, the talented, the beautiful, the incredible, the one who inspires me endlessly, Liz Anderson. Liz is, as some of you may know, the voice of the opening and closing of this podcast. And I absolutely adore not just the life journey that we're on together, but I love the creating with her. I love doing the creative things with her. I love the way we work together. And it's not always perfect. Things happen. There's disagreements in how we should do things and arguments and stuff like that. But all the way along, it is so much fun and it is so enriching and so rewarding to get to do creative things with Liz. And I was so excited when she wanted to do a post-mortem reflection on the 2026 Aurora Awards, which is an award ceremony for Canadian science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Last night, 2026 marked the fifth time that Liz and I co-hosted the award, the sixth time that we co-produced the show together, although she does 98% of the heavy lifting on this. We use StreamYard for this live broadcast, and it's a celebration where we award, best novel, best novella, best short fiction, best cover art or illustration, best related work, etc. All these different categories that KISFA, the Canadian Science Fiction and Fantasy Association, do in celebrating excellence in the speculative arts in Canada, which they've been doing for a long time. They also have Hall of Fame inductees. This year's inductees were Kelly Armstrong, James Allen Gardner, and Mike Lixon. And that was posthumously awarded to Mike. And again, it's just this fantastic celebration. It's about anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half ceremony that we live stream on YouTube. I'll have links to it in the show notes, of course. But what Liz and I like to do, we did this last year after the 2025 Aurora Awards. We did it around a campfire because we had gone camping the very next night. And this year, we just sat in the backyard with the gas fire and had a beer and did some reflections. And I've already written an article that I shared on Substack, which is more about something that Liz does in this interview and in this conversation, where she kind of compliments my storytelling and creativity. And I was like, no, but you're so damn creative and talented, and you are a storyteller. And so it was my sort of reflection, my deeper reflections on that after I got up this morning over a morning coffee. I put that together. And anyways, I'll have a link to that in the show notes. But this is kind of probably going to count for the personal update as well. And so what I will just do is I'll roll right into personal update. I am going to be in Calgary later this week. I'm going to be at When Words Collide in Calgary. I'm leaving. I've got buddies coming. So Kevin Anderson was in town. I picked him up on Thursday. He stayed with us Thursday night. Kevin and I did the Rush stuff. The Friday I stayed in Toronto. We saw the Rush concert, and then Saturday RushCon and a cruise. And then I came back really late, like around midnight on Saturday. And then Liz and I scrambled to get this recording for the cold open for the Aurora ceremony, and a bunch of the editing finished and completed for the 5 p.m. Eastern broadcast time. And then I've got buddies that are en route right now on their way to Waterloo from high school buddies who've been Rush fans their entire lives, and I'm going to go see Rush again with them on Tuesday night. And it was so fun. So last night after the awards ceremony, the Kevin was back at the Rush for the Sunday night, and he was messaging me with every new song. He's like, "Oh, they changed up the playlist," because they're not sticking to the exact same playlist every night. They will have some songs that are common. It was like, "Oh, they played this song instead of that song, and they played this song." And so it's just so amazing how much fun we had the other night at the concert, and even how much fun Kevin had. And I had, I guess, serendipitously through him as well. But it's going to be really busy because my buddies are here doing the Rush concert, and then almost the very next day I'm flying off to Calgary. So busy times. It's just going to be busy again for the next 2 weeks, and busy in terms of being on the move and not in one place as well. So I am not going to go looking for comments, but I do want to pause and say thank you so much to those who support this podcast over at patreon.com/starkreflections. Love your support and patronage. And I'd like to welcome new patron, Joseph Dagnis. And I hope, Joseph, I pronounced that properly. Thank you so much. Let me know if I got it wrong. But thank you for becoming a patron and joining the team of awesome patrons. I will be sending you a message to make sure you get access to the additional RSS feed and all the extra content as well. And of course, a link to your website over at starkreflections.ca under the list of patrons. Thank you so much. And thank you to all my patrons and my coffee buddies over at buymeacoffee.com/Mark Leslie. And of course, for any crossover listeners, thank you for those who support the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast, or the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing Substack, which is sort of a sister to this podcast. Those who support me over there as well. I do appreciate that support. I'm glad you appreciate the content that I am creating to try to inform and inspire you on your writing journey. I am going to now roll a bumper. You're going to hear an ad from this episode's direct sponsor, as well as an ad from the automated ads that come into me via Libsyn. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is it does get expensive, and the more downloads that I get, I have to up my game and pay more for the monthly fee to get those out. So I've added in the ability to make some earn some revenue on that to help me pay for the fee. And yes, the patronage and the support does help in that regard. But it's really nice to not just cover the costs, but to have just a little bit extra mad money so I can buy another beer. And so thank you, or coffee, or whatever the beverage I guess it's the beverage of my choice, but thank you for helping me buy that. Okay, let me roll the bumper, and we will get into this post-mortem conversation about the 2026 Aurora Awards with my dear friend and partner, my life partner, Liz May Anderson. This episode is sponsored in part by my affiliate link with ManuscriptReport.com. ManuscriptReport.com is a platform that allows you to upload your complete manuscript and get back great marketing tips and content. What it does is it pulls it in within about 20 to 30 minutes. You'll get an email about a 30-page report, 30 pages or so, and it'll pull out the tropes, it'll pull out themes, it will break down the target audience as well as different pitches for different target audience members. It'll provide you a list of comp authors and titles, not only telling you how your book is like those other titles, but how your book is unique from them. There will also be keywords that are provided for you in setting that up for things like your listings on Amazon. And even with some marketing, you've got sales copy and blurbs, and even a press release that you can use. This is all great content that can save you hours of time as you craft together your marketing for your book. And why shouldn't your marketing be uniquely tied to the elements specific to your book? And if you want to check out how you can leverage this tool for marketing, you can use my affiliate code MARK10 to get 10% off. That's MARK10, MARK10, and that gets you 10% off at manuscriptreport.com. So here we are again. Liz, welcome to the Stark Reflections podcast. We're in front of a fire. It is post the Aurora Awards ceremony. How you feeling?
I'm good. We're at a very different kind of campsite. We're in the backyard of our home in southwestern Ontario, and we have a gas fireplace instead of a campfire this year. But that's okay.
It's
I'm
still
good.
cozy. We have lots of foliage around us in the backyard. It's very green, which I do. It's almost like having a cottage. Not quite.
Pretty close.
There's no nice lake, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
So we just finished, was it an hour and 10 minutes? We did the 2026 Aurora
Awards. Yeah, it was pretty
Awards.
tight. I felt it was a pretty tight show. We had a nice little perky pace going on, so I felt good about that. But yeah, like last year, it was important for us to debrief the experience and maybe let people know a little bit about the behind the scenes of what goes into an Aurora Awards and kind of what our thoughts and feelings were during the process.
So let's cut to the chase here, because this is always a case every year, since I am the science fiction, fantasy, horror nerd, and you are adjacent to it because you're stuck with me.
Very adjacent.
But there's always a moment, or there's always a time where in the throes of the days and days of work, like this is numerous days that you put into it, where you go, I don't know if I want to keep doing this.
Yeah,
you reached that point this year.
I reached that point many, many times. Now, luckily, we produced this so close to the actual Aurora Awards broadcast that the number of times that I actually feel that way is actually getting smaller because I don't have a lot of time. But yes, it was a few times this time around where I really was doubting whether or not I wanted to do it, or B, could actually pull it off.
So let's get into this. So the Aurora Awards, for anyone who's not familiar, is an annual Canadian science fiction, fantasy, and horror celebration of the best of the best. It's kind of like the Hugo Awards, but in Canada, and it's run by KISFA, the Canadian Science Fiction and Fantasy Association, and is meant to honor the writers and artists and musicians and poets who create speculative fiction works. And it used to be held at conferences it was either somewhere in Eastern Canada around this time of year, sort of August, September, October, or on the West Coast or something like that, at different conferences. And in 2020, it was going to have to be virtual. So we stepped up and produced it with me as the host and you doing all the Wizard of Oz stuff behind the scenes, I guess.
Yeah, actually, I remember that year, and I was actually crouched below you, just clicking, the back of house, kind of stage managing the whole thing. It wasn't comfortable.
No, you were kind of hiding in a chair really low down. I was visible, and that's because we were connected to my computer, but you were looking at a separate screen.
Yeah.
So you were controlling everything, and I was the visible host of the show.
Yeah.
Although at one point when I raised a glass, to do a toast for the nominees, you handed me the bottle. So it's obvious that there was someone there
There is a
helping
little
behind the scenes.
behind the scenes.
But that was this was a change for the Auroras, because in previous years, if you weren't there in the audience, if you hadn't traveled to the conference, you couldn't accept. And what happened was we used StreamYard as a live stream software to go to places like YouTube. And I think we've settled on YouTube only rather than a bunch of different places. And then that way people could attend and watch from wherever they were. They didn't have to be in the audience. But we could also use the green room, or we call it the green room, the backstage, where nominees could be waiting. And if their name was called, we would bring them onto the stage and then they could accept. So it felt to me, at least, having been to previous Auroras, is that more people could attend and participate, even if they weren't geographically located or had the means to travel.
Right. And from my perspective, so since I've always been a behind the scenes video producer and creator of visual works to celebrate milestones, and that was really comfortable for me. But then in 2020, a little thing called the pandemic allowed me to step out into the forefront and create daily content to educators and also families and students. And so that opportunity opened a much wider audience and this very inclusive space where we could create for a wider variety of people, and also crowdsource and interact. So one of the things that we really appreciate is having an open YouTube comment section so that we can see the online comments that are coming in, and we can pop those up through that. And also, like, having the opportunity to have people coming in from all kinds of places. We had, nominees coming in from Las Vegas this year. We came in from all over Canada.
None of it. I saw a comment from none of it.
Yeah, all over
we asked
Canada.
them, yeah, where are you watching from?
Yeah, and so that allowed people to come into the space and feel like they were actually attending and part of it. And so that was, again, I'm super grateful for the opportunity for technology to bring community together in this way, and it's just expanded over the now 5 years that we've co-hosted.
Yeah, so I did 2020 I was a solo host, and then 2021 the folks who were running CanCon did it as part of the CanCon, but they still did it virtual so they could include everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were asked to do it again, and we were actually nominated in 2021 for Best Other Work Other, and it was for our show that we put together, which actually got you your first Aurora
I did. I got
nomination.
the pin.
Yeah, I got the pin. And I got my first nomination in a new category because I'd only previously been nominated in short fiction prior. But then we came back in 22, 23, 24, 25, and just now 2026. So we have become the de facto default, the house talent hosts.
Yes, I think we're the house talent.
I mean, until they find somebody really talented who's going to take over, we're kind of like the ones who are doing
willing
it.
to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So what we did, I think. It wasn't just an awards ceremony, because we wanted to produce it as if it were a televised broadcast, right? So we had the opening credits, we have the visuals and the music, the background music, and all of this stuff, almost like an Academy Awards ceremony, except we're not on a stage. We're in, virtual. I mean, as a judge of the Writers of the Future, they do a really big black tie event, and it's a really big deal. It's very exciting with the music and the glamour. I mean, they actually even have acts that, precede the show and all kinds of visuals and stuff like that. And so I think the quality, and this is pretty much like 98% of your hard work. that goes into creating all of this. And I think that's an important aspect to the show because it gives it some pizzazz. It gives it a little bit of glamour. Because
Yeah,
I yeah.
yeah, I've always wanted it to have an appearance, and an aesthetic that it matters, right? So that we've taken the time, because the creators do matter. The nominees, the people who have invested time into their craft, or the individuals who have invested their time and energy into their love of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, that matters. And that deserves an element of respect, and it deserves an element of care, that it matters, that the positioning of the photos, or
Okay, I'm interrupting here the original interview because you probably heard it, but as Liz was talking, the neighbor, and just basically not even 10 feet away, started to fill up a bucket with a hose to do some watering in the backyard, and that was a few minutes of noise, so we stopped the recording and then started again. So there's a little bit of a break, but Liz continued on with that initial thought she had. So but let's go back to the campfire conversation.
When I first start out every year, I don't know any of the nominees, except from previous years. And luckily, I have had the opportunity to see their work over time, but it's exciting to get to know people a little bit even more. And one of those opportunities is certainly through the Hall of Fame inductees. And this is where I get to really look into the background of the individual nominees or the recipients, and start looking at visuals. And I think the most profound one for me this year, I was very grateful to have the opportunity to do some background research on Mike Glickson. And the award, the Hall of Fame award that he received, was posthumously awarded to him. Mike died in 2011. And what I had the opportunity to do is really look through archives online, and even found a video of the 1975 entire show, I guess you would say, in Australia. So he was a person that, I wish that right now I had the thing in front of me, but he was somebody who went to this conference in Australia in 1975. They did a video of the whole thing, which is online.
It's like
If you,
1975.
yeah, if you do a little bit of digging, and it was awesome because, for me, because I love video and I love getting to know people through that medium, I got to see Mike and hear him and hear his voice and hear that he was incredibly funny. The other piece to this was that I looked, because I'm an education and I'm an educator. Mike also was an educator. He was a mathematics teacher, and that really spoke to me. And I read comments online how influential he was as an educator, how he would bring a boa constrictor into classes. Obviously, this was pre like 1980s,
All these
like
rules.
all these rules. That would never happen now, but that was a really profound thing, that people would really remember him and really call him out for the impact that he had on their understanding of a subject that most people would have had some struggles with. And that's how they would also say, like, I really didn't understand this, but he made it really accessible. So that was an happy accident and an added bonus for me this year to be able to have that opportunity.
What I like about that is Mike was being awarded this posthumously
Mm.
for the passion and enthusiasm, the contagiousness of the way he loved science fiction and fantasy and horror. So he was quite the person who was very engaged in community, created communities for people to celebrate together. And you recognize that he also did this in an additional field that you're more familiar with, obviously. I, I want to take a bit of an aside here because one of the things I really liked is David Klink has done a remarkable job of putting together biographical information about the nominees. So we had Kelly Armstrong, James Allen Gardner, and Mike Lixon. All three were the recipients this year of the Hall of Fame. They were inductees into the Hall of Fame. And you added this element to the biographies and the background on these amazing individuals by bringing in visuals that were very directly associated. And I think one of the things, because I may have met Mike at one or two events, but it wasn't a person that I knew as well as many other people in the community knew him. But I have had the benefit of seeing Jim and Kelly, on stage and interacting with them over the years. So getting to when you showed me even the video clip of Mike, even though I didn't hear what he was saying, just seeing him in action and seeing those photos, it brought a whole new era. So this is the aside, is the storytelling that can be done in visual and in video medium. I mean, that is, I like to pride, like, I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer, but you're also a storyteller. As an educator, you're a storyteller, but also in the visual mediums that you like sharing. Where do you think that came from?
I think for me, I am not like you, Mark. You are able to consume audio and really have a keen ear and a memory that is associated with sound. That is not my preferred way of consuming and understanding. For me, I am a visual person, I'm a visual learner. And so for me, audio alone is really challenging and I need to have it grounded in some sort of visual. You listen to audiobooks and I have not really grasped onto that because I need to have those visual cues. So having David's audio information available and also being able to pair it with a visual ground was an important piece for me and hopefully for the audience that was watching and will watch it in the future.
So let's dig back into this passion you'd had for being in the background. And you said it was the pandemic. So you were doing the daily show for students, for the educators, and for the families and for the parents. Like you actually did numerous pieces, right?
We did.
Like
Yeah.
one was a team building exercise for the team at the school.
Yep.
So everyone could still feel connected. And then there was also the information and the community that people could connect to. And you did a show that wasn't just for the kids, but you knew that the kids were at home and their parents were there often with them. So you tried to be inclusive of everyone in that audience.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Because you were always not the person who wanted to be in front of the camera. It was funny. So I was just at RushCon this weekend, and Kevin Anderson had showed me a video and shared that for the very first time ever. It was a video he had taken when he and Neil were hiking. They were at like 13,000 feet. It was a 14,000 foot mountain that they were on when they were working on the collaboration for the novelization for Clockwork Angels. And Kevin had a video where he's doing a video and he's showing the beautiful, they've taken a break at 13,000 feet. And as he passes by Neil, who he said, like, he'd been friends with Neil for 25, 30 years. And there's very few pictures of him because Neil did not like the spotlight or the limelight. Neil wanted to stay behind the camera, not in front of the camera, even though he was a performer and a drummer for Rush, obviously. And it's so cute because you can see in Neil that as Kevin has the camera on him, Neil's like, yeah, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to say a couple of things, but I don't want to be on camera. You have that same aspect where you'd rather be behind the camera. But what was it that made you feel more comfortable? And I'm asking this question because there are people, writers out there who they may be comfortable behind the keyboard and sharing their stories, but not necessarily doing a live reading or any of the things that writers sometimes do, social media, whatever it is they do. What was it that helped you get in front of the camera?
I think, honestly, it was scale. And so if you're only doing 1 or 2 videos a month or biannually, there's a lot of pressure to have, you're looking at that video, you're hypercritical of that 1 or 2 videos that you've decided to put out there. But when you make the decision to actually create content that is wider, like daily, multiple ones a day, it does reduce your ability to really become hypercritical of the daily moments. You produce it, you put it out there, it gets a response, and you don't go back to it. And I think that there's some elements to that that I think is important. Again, I don't go back to the what I would probably say thousands of videos that have been produced that are part of a daily archive. I why? They right, like
You're like a
they
morning
they're
radio
like
show host,
they
right?
happened. I'm not looking for like trends or how many likes or what have you. I They happened, they were for a particular audience. Some were better than others, and then we move on to the next day. So that has been something that allowed me to step out of that comfort zone. I recognize that not everybody has that platform, but for me, that was a big thing. For as an aside, and we had talked about this after today's Auroras, I haven't been in front of a camera in multiple months, and this has been one of the first times that I've been within the platform of StreamYard in many months and haven't been as comfortable. And so there was some, you know, some worry on I was like, am I going to remember what buttons to press? Am I going to remember how to do those things? What, all of those logistical pieces. But that's where I think having a really good foundation and self-efficacy of I have done these for many, many times, and and I know that I've been successful in the past. So that building on those previous experiences, I think has been really important, and also reminded me how much joy I get out of producing and creating. And so that was a great reminder, especially as we're, you know, in August in Canada, wrapping up a summer and looking forward to a September startup.
It's interesting that it was kind of like getting back on a bicycle.
Yeah.
Maybe initially it was like, oh, I haven't done this, and then you get into the swing of things, to mix metaphors.
Yeah, I would say that there's also an element that I think a lot of us, I shouldn't say a lot of us, I will speak on my own experience. I can only become very quote unquote creative, or when I feel my most creative, is as a last minute production. And we joke about that. That's kind of my branding of last minute production. But that is kind of the way that I operate. I will have a general overview. I can rough cut. I can do some of those pieces, but I'm not, I'm more of a pantser, not a plotter. I am a last minute creator. And every time I'm like, oh, this might be the day. It's not gonna come off. And then it's fine, which then reinforces that. But instead of looking at it as a deficit, I am really looking at it as this is how I create. And so if you are like that, give yourself some grace that it's not maybe a bug in the operating system. Maybe it is the superpower in it, and not to beat yourself up about it, and be okay with that.
Speaking of last minute production, is because Kevin Anderson came and stayed with us, and then I was with him at RushCon for a few days. We would normally be doing a lot of it, like still last minute, but it would often be shot in the days before, and then it would all get edited and put together on the last day. But I didn't get home until midnight last night, and I'd been away for 2 days. So we had shot some things earlier with Cliff for the cold open. So before the before the opening sequence of the Welcome to the Aurora Awards, we always do a cold open, which kind of sets up the premise of like, why is Mark hosting it? Why did Mark get a co-host? Those are the cold opens, like all the things over the years. And so this year we were still filming the opening stuff, late this morning. And I think it was like not even an hour before go live that we were still working on the edits. But the premise this year for the cold open was Cliff, who's chair, not chair, sorry, my apologies. He organizes the Aurora, so he's in charge of organizing the Aurora. So he's the person we work with most closely for putting the show on and stuff. And so there's always some shtick where Cliff calls and asks for something or tells us whatever. And this year he got some great software that was going to completely digitize and automate 90% of the work for us. So all we had to do was show up and open envelopes. And then we saw that this automated artificial intelligence completely screwed things up. And so at the last minute, we had to hack back into the system because we couldn't even get logged in. And it was a play on 2001: A Space Odyssey with HAL, locking us out of the system. But so it was a joke about the tech not working. And then we finally made it. And then when we were live, because this is live and there's something about the pressure of live, then...
Well, can we go back a little bit? Because
yes.
I don't want to gloss over the Cliff. So Clifford Samuels has been our handler for the Auroras during the years that we've been co-hosting. And within that capacity, we have roped him in to be part of these cold opens.
And he's a great sport about it.
What I have to say is that, like, we don't usually know what it's going to be until maybe 3 at the most days before the actual ceremonies. And when we meet with Cliff online, we just say, this is the time, this is where we're going to meet. And then we film, and I just give him prompts.
No script.
We don't give him any sort of written overview, because mostly I never know.
I don't even know. It's in your head.
I'm
and you're just
usually
kind of
like,
saying,
what's
okay,
that going to do?
do this.
I think this might work. And this year, I had this totally different concept walking into the Auroras, which did not materialize. And I'm not going to share what it is because
we could
we
do it again.
might need to dip into that if we are honored with another opportunity. But for this year, I could see Cliff's face when I was like, so I need you to get another outfit and a binder. He's like,
What?
Like, okay. And so he goes off and it gets like no questions asked and comes back, and I give him some basic overview, play-by-play, little bite-sized bits. And we started saying that he was one take wonder because we would just do like this very small snippet of, I need you to do this. And he would. And cut, paste, done.
He was a good improver.
Fantastic. The best. So thank you, Cliff. We are so grateful for you and your willingness to come on our last minute production.
And he has no idea what we're going to do because we haven't even told him the full story. It's just
we don't
like,
even know the full story.
I love how he trusts us no matter what we've done to him. Like the one time we put him on beer cans. Right, we had beers and stuff. We had fake beer labels and stuff with the Cliff.
Yeah,
we just said, send us some pictures of this.
Yeah,
but so that was a lot of fun.
So we are incredibly grateful for the trust that he has placed in our hands, but also like we want to honor him in that.
Yeah.
So we are very. Anyway. So that was, and honestly, I wasn't 100% sure where we were going to go with it until we asked Cliff to do that. And that was only a couple of days ago. And then we filmed almost every element of that cold open this morning.
And you were editing up until the time it's time to shower, get dressed,
potentially 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the joke was tech issues. We were locked out, and we just got in with 10 seconds to spare. And then while we were live, because this is a live broadcast, while we were live, you sent me a text message that said, my computer is going to, it was like 5 p.m. Eastern. It started, and I think it was like 5:20. 5:20 was when your computer was going to automatically reset, and you couldn't do anything about it. It was going to shut down and install software that was going to take forever. Yeah. And so you're downstairs in the library bar area with a book backdrop. I'm in my office with a book backdrop, and that's how we've managed the show on 2 separate screens.
Third world problems. We do actually have 3 different library areas in our home
because books are so important.
And so I was set up in one area that has been kind of my traditional, this is my background, and I was like, well, if at 5:20 I'm offline, then I'm coming upstairs and we're doing the show together.
Yeah, but what we did is it was live, so you text messaged me. And this is like in the bit, so we pre-record quite a bit of it. So we have the people who graciously, they do an amazing job. I either work with them or they create the video themselves, and they submit a video where it introduces the category, talks about the category. It's usually a past winner, so there's a personal anecdote or story that I think adds a beautiful dimension to it. And then they introduce the nominees, in which you add visuals to that. So while those are playing, we're able to actually not talk to each other, but message each other. And you said, my computer's gonna go, and I don't know if it's coming back. So it's like you scrambled to get upstairs. So while the one bit was playing, I think it was the Hall of Fame was happening.
Thankfully.
We had a few minutes, right? And then we decided, well, let's work it into the show. So at the last minute, we said, well, let's pretend that the bug, the virus, the software that was taking over got your computer, right? Because we unlocked it on my computer, but not on yours, so it took over again. And then even worked that into one of the acceptances. CanCon was one of the winners,
Yeah.
and Brandon and Marie they'd had a slight tech hiccup as they were doing their acceptance, so we were worried that they got hacked too by the system.
Yeah, and it was a pretty slick way of doing it. And we also did receive a comment online that our audio wasn't really great
Yeah, there was an
when
echo or
we,
something.
yeah, so it kind of solved that audio element. And I think, yeah, it was a different setup for me to quickly walk into, and it was not my original
Well, because I have a smaller
setup,
screen and
so
you're
that
used to a
was
huge screen,
interesting,
right?
but it was fine. And I think what it allowed was a more authentic presentation between the two of us, so that we could chat very quickly in between bits,
Yeah, that
or
was handy. Yeah.
or be able to go off of each other in a more natural way, which is really, really challenging when you're doing it on two screens, because you don't want to talk over each other. And yeah, so
Yeah.
that actually was a bit of a happy accident. And maybe if we are chosen to do it next year, then maybe that might be something that we look into doing again. I
So
don't know.
I find it funny that you keep thinking we're chosen to do this. Who wants to do all that work? I mean, it's like who's enough of a
You don't
sucker to
know.
want to do all this work?
Maybe.
But again, I
The
do.
AI is
I
coming.
feel honored. I do feel honored.
Yeah.
Like this is. I've been in this science fiction, fantasy, horror community for my entire life. And for me, it is. I joke that no one else is a sucker enough to want to do all this work, but it's a real honor that we get to celebrate such amazing people. You talked about like Mike and his legacy, and I think about folks like Kelly and James, who Hall of Fame inductees, and the nominees and the winners, and all of the works, and I've read quite a few of them, not all of them, admittedly, but I have a lot. My to be read pile is miles deep. Many of the books we own I still haven't read yet, because the good intentions are there, but I think there is a special honor, and so I do like that you say that when if we're allowed to do this again, if they will honor us with the opportunity. I think that is important to acknowledge, rather than me joking and saying, well, no one else wants to do this.
No, and I come to this very humbly, in the fact that I am not part of the SSFA realm. I am not a writer. I am not a creator within that, but I am adjacent. So whenever
You
I
are a
see
creator.
things like the works, and maybe that's why I kind of connected with Mike Glickson and his role within fandom. And I'm gonna be really honest, I had to Google search what a fanzine was. And I'd be like, okay, so this whole realm that exists, that honors creators, talks about things in ways that I don't even know how to talk about the things that I'm talking about right now. It's really exciting to see that there is a place within the science fiction, fantasy, and horror community, that you don't have to necessarily be a creator. You can also be someone who loves it and maybe produces something adjacent. Yeah, I don't even know whether that's
No, that's
even the way to say that. But yeah, like I think that there's a space and place for everyone. And that, I think, is exciting. I think also when we are producing this and we have it open to comments within a YouTube space. It is exciting to see the comments that come in. It's interesting to read them. It's really challenging in the moment to quickly pop them up.
As they
The
scroll
way,
past.
the way that the software that we use, it's not necessarily conducive to that, but we try our best to put up as many as we possibly can. And it's really exciting to see how many people are interacting, sending out their thoughts and well wishes, and again, just that connection piece is something that I'm, again, really honored to be part of.
There is something really special about that community, seeing so many people cheering one another on. And I want to go back. It's interesting that, this was the time when you discovered or realized that all the work you had been doing in the past, I mean, you have been nominated for an Aurora Award for the work you did celebrating science fiction. But look, Cliff is a perfect example. Is I've known Cliff for, oh my God, since 2014 was the first time I met him at When Words Collide in Calgary, and we've been good friends ever since. Cliff doesn't write and doesn't want to write, but he loves to read, and he's actively and heartily engaged in, obviously, as a board member of KISFA, and all the like, so much work he does. And I think that's interesting, that I love that there can be a community, that the whole community is not just the community of the artists and creators and writers. The whole community is everyone engaged and involved. I love that inclusivity.
Mm-hmm. And this year, when we had talked things over with Cliff about just an overarching theme, we were really talking about a unity element and something that would be uniting. I don't think, like, realistically, that's not the direction that we went in. It was a direction that we thought that we could go into. Maybe we kind of got there through naturally, because it just was. You don't have to, it wasn't created. It just was. And that is something that I think is an important piece, is that we come from a very diverse country, geographically, and it's wonderful to see that representation across the country, and through the Aurora Awards, seeing how people are coming together.
Well, that is absolutely fantastic, and I'm always on a high as we're celebrating and seeing the nominees, because we get to see them in the green room, even though they don't all get to be on the screen.
Which is something that we actually
Yeah.
were talking about doing differently, potentially next year. If we are doing it next year, we're going to do something very different around that, so that we can be more inclusive to all those nominees that do show up to the awards.
Yeah.
And we want to recognize them. So next year, if we are still doing it, then that's something that we're going to do.
Yeah, that way they can have that moment where we're not just saying, "Hey, congratulations, go look at the list of names," that they can pop them up on screen and say, "Here are the nominees."
Yeah.
You can see them live, not just a beautiful picture that was taken of them. So, as we go to wrap this up, any final thoughts for writers, creators, maybe people who are thinking, "Well, why I'm not part of that community," or I'm not a writer, I'm not a creator, and I would argue you kept saying that you're not, but I think you are every much a storyteller as I am, and just in a different way, and that your passion is still for it. Your passion's always been a kind of story.
Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway after this year's has been quite personal. Like I had shared, I haven't been doing a live show for an audience for a number of months, and I was wondering whether I should maybe take a step back from that, and maybe that shouldn't be my priority moving forward into a new school year. The amount of time that it takes, the honestly, it's just the time that
It's
it
a lot of
takes.
time.
It just is such such amount of effort to go into the back parts of those productions. But I think what today's broadcast and today's awards broadcast showed me is that that is and still remains a place where that brings me joy. The process of it, the production of it, the execution of it, and then finally the aftermath of it. Maybe not the aftermath, the
end result,
the end
final
result.
product.
The aftermath sounds like it's like sometimes it is an aftermath.
The completed manuscript. There you go.
So when you're done, you get to not just celebrate, but you also get to add to your backpack of skills and experiences of like, that was hard. That I didn't think I could do. But I did. We did. It worked out. And that's something that matters and can be fuel for the next production, the next broadcast, the next whatever you want to do. So that's a piece that I know that I have found value in for this 2026 Aurora Awards.
Liz, well, you don't really have much choice but to hang out with me, but thank you for hanging out with me today for today's episode.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.